Okay. My computer is acting really strange today. So, wow, that was weird. A little staring contest, if you will. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? This is Tammy. I am the founder of Synergescence, the developer of Aroma Genomics. Aroma Genomics is a new modality that I've kind of I have breathed life into. Yes, it does involve essential oils, but it involves them in a way that we work specifically with the constituents in the oil, which kind of really takes away from any kind of book or website that's recommending your broad name oil, right? Like basil or lavender and so forth, and actually really beginning to look at what's in these oils and work with them specifically. So kind of matching the organic chemistry of the oil to the biochemistry of the individual. Now, you may or may not be aware of, if you're new, welcome. If you've been here for a while, thank you. I appreciate all of you. But I am doing a daily vlog for those of you who are new, because I was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, skin cancer, as you can see here, osteoarthritis, and scoliosis. So I basically am getting an opportunity to really live my work. And so that's part of the reason for the vlog, because I'm sharing what my day is like. I mean, what I'm actually going through mentally, emotionally, choices in oils and so forth. And so I haven't talked a lot about oils up until this point, just because I'm kind of limited until Wednesday, after which I'm hopefully can get some income coming in here, and then I'll be able to get some more oils, get myself restocked, because I'm going to be blending oils with acupuncture for the recovery process to protect me and my body and to really stabilize my hormonal system, as well as how I use them with the radiation treatment that I will be going through. And not so sure what's going to happen the skin cancer isn't going to be really addressed until after the radiation is over. And then after that, I'm going to have surgery on my foot because of the arthritis that who knew was there. I mean, truthfully, I actually thought I was living with other stuff. I mean, like you, I go on the internet and I start looking up symptoms, and I never have gotten a formal diagnosis. And this is one of the reasons why I really, really strongly encourage people, if you have a health issue, and I realize there's a number of people walking around out there that really have an undiagnosed health issue. Nobody's been able to pinpoint anything, and so they speculate this and probable that, and so you're just living with symptoms. And while we can definitely work with symptoms, the idea here is to really, the whole point to aroma genomics at that point is really to not have to, be able to not just curtail the symptoms, but actually rectify the issue of what's leading to the degeneration or the potential degeneration. And that is honestly stress. And I don't mean to sound cliche. If you've not seen any of my other videos, then this will be news to you. If you've seen them, then something you may have heard already. But again, stress, not to be cliche, but it is mental and emotional distress. Absolutely. It is healing those ancestral, that family line of passed on beliefs about somebody, like, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I should be ashamed of myself. I mean, all of these sometimes unspoken things get passed on. Because why do I say that? Because the best way I know how to describe it is, if somebody doesn't feel worthy, or they don't feel like they're good enough, or they're ashamed of themselves, you're going to see they're going to be possibly overly confident, kind of come across as arrogant, maybe very, very excitable and passionate about something. These are people that are hiding these beliefs, and they may not even be aware that they're carrying it. So that does factor in significantly, significantly. And we'll hear more about that here in a minute with osteo and histamine. But it does factor in significantly. Now, the other component to stress is the environmental factors that we have no control over. Now, when I talk about environmental factors, I want to be really clear. I'm not just speaking about the chemicals that we are all up in arms about. Now, there are 45 million chemicals being produced by man that are being used around the world. Well over 70,000 of them have been confirmed as what they call endocrine disruptors, which means they screw up the hormonal system. Basically, they are considered xenoestrogens, which means they chemicals that act like estrogen in the body, although they don't register as estrogen on blood tests. So they go undetected that way, but yet they're screwing with the system, and they're activating autonomic nervous system as well as the immune system. Again, though, that's not the only environmental factor. Other factors include fungus, virus, bacteria, mold. These things also, oh, looky there, I have a little square of sunshine. These things also stress the body. And then lest we forget the fact that we are enduring high levels of mental and emotional distress, as well as chemical invasion from personal care products, air or water, you name it. Then there is the factor that the digestive system slows down. Now, that's not a defunct, that's not a dysfunction of the body. It is actually a function of the body. And that may sound strange to you. However, when the autonomic nervous system is activated because there's a threat, and mind you, the body cannot distinguish the difference between a physical threat, I mean, seriously, a life-threatening situation versus I'm just messing with myself right now with anxiety. It can't tell the difference. So it's up to us to help make that registration, like really notify the body that, hey, we're okay right now. Everything's cool. Everything's cool right now. Stuff may happen or stuff did happen, but right here, right now, we're good. We really need to be developing that relationship with ourselves and really checking in, with what's going on with us, going back to even the lineage of beliefs, underlying beliefs that are fueling our interactions with people. Because all of that is like a festering wound. And so when you find yourself triggered in the world, it's a good thing. It's a really good thing to go back and revisit what is going on with you. What did that actually represent to you? And I had an episode, I'm just going to say it here because I didn't say it in the vlog I just filmed, but I had an episode yesterday where, somebody has access or has privy to what's going on in my life, and I really didn't want them to know about it. I really didn't. There's a number of reasons why, and I just wasn't really crazy about that. But then the all-knowing shame showed up. And that's what made me upset. So again, all of that goes on behind the scenes that we're not aware of. And when that's going on, until we can get a handle on it, the stress mechanism has been activated. And the stress mechanism is truly a survival mechanism that is designed to keep us protected and safe. And although we may claim that degenerative disease is not being taken care of, I tell you differently. It actually is. It's just that we haven't been listening to ourselves. We haven't been paying attention to our emotions. What if the emotion is actually the first line of defense of our offense, if you will? It's the first line of offense to actually protecting yourself from further breakdown. What if that's what an emotion is all about? It's a signal going, hey, you, Susie Q, hey, you, Tammy, you need to go and take a look at yourself. You need to go explore what's going on inside of you. What if that's what an emotion is all about? And this is significant with regards to histamine and osteo, trust me. So the point to all of that is when we are chronically stressed and that survival mechanism is kicked on, what ends up happening is it disrupts digestion, because technically stress is supposed to be, that physical threat is supposed to be temporary. And then once it's over, then we can resume into a more meaningful operation, if you will, a way to thrive as opposed to survive. But essentially, each one of us is living in chronic survival mode. And I have admittedly been living in chronic survival mode for decades because of just all of the external bullshit that I've had to put up with. In the meantime, then there's my own head I've been dealing with. And so all of that compounds the way the body is actually breaking down the macronutrients. And that's significant because when the acetylcholine is being used to activate other systems in the body and it's not being used in digestion, then what ultimately happens is we no longer break down. We're not producing the hydrochloric acid that's needed for the breakdown of proteins and fats and carbohydrates. That's what's needed to break down our foods into usable portions. So that's the first part. And then the gut bacteria becomes disrupted. You know why? Because hydrochloric acid is needed for I need to keep my hands off the table. The hydrochloric acid is actually needed for the regulation of microflora. Yeah, we don't need to be taking probiotics. And trust me, I bought into that storyline forever until I went through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. And then I realized that through my own studies and research, probiotics is nonsense because the whole point is being able to balance good with bad bacteria. And how that works is hydrochloric acid actually sterilizes our food. It actually kills off. Did you hear that? Hydrochloric acid actually kills off the bad bacteria. We don't need to be taking probiotics and adding good bacteria because if you're not sterilizing your food, the bad bacteria still gets into the gut. It still gets into the body, and now you got massive issues. So don't take probiotics. Get yourself some hydrochloric acid. A betaine supplement is actually best. I'll put there'll be a link here in the description box below for you to take a look at. But that would be your best, and you can take it according to the bottle. But I would recommend at least getting 2 a day for a while, because as I said, hydrochloric acid is necessary. So stabilizing the autonomic nervous system so that we can better use acetylcholine in the digestive system, so that hydrochloric acid can be produced in order to balance gut bacteria. Make sense? Okay, but that doesn't happen when we're stressed. It's just not happening. So, arms off the table. So then what? Okay, so back to the histamine and osteo. How does any of this, what I've said so far, play into that? Well, it plays in a lot. So, it's fascinating. I don't even know where to begin. So they've discovered that it's been determined that H1 and H2 receptors are indicated in osteo. Now, this is a really bad. I think we're okay. It's just the lighting. It's just not been a sunny day, and I don't have my light in here. I apologize. But that said, these receptors are found throughout the body. They're able to, in the brain, central nervous system, both of them. H2 receptor is more specific to the gut. It is responsible for helping the release of gastric acids. But the thing is, we're inundated with histamine. This is the reason for histamine intolerance. And this ultimately leads to the degeneration of bone. Now, we can get into all the mechanisms of how that happens, right? Or we can just look at it as if the body is being invaded, because here's the deal. Histamine is released from the mast cells. Mast cells are released in response to what is considered to be an allergen, one of those environmental toxins we were talking about. And when we have high levels of mast cells being released, then it negates it activates the production of a hormone that keeps iron in the liver. So now you have chronic fatigue. Okay, that's something I have had off and on for years. Okay, but the histamine is actually released from the mast cell. So bottom line is that we have a high level of mast cells running, and this is the reason why arthritis develops, because mast cells are also released when there's an injury. It's the first line of defense for developing and for tissue development or healing. I shouldn't say tissue development, it's more about healing, but it's the granulation, okay? And in that granulation, this is where histamine is released. So when you injure yourself, and then all of a sudden, now years later, you have arthritis, right? I'm still wondering about my neck because I have arthritis. Actually, I have arthritis in my entire spine, and I don't know how I developed osteo, but I can tell you, I know why now. I've been in pain for so long with my neck, possibly because as a kid, I landed on my face so many times. People jumped on my face. I fell off the, 8-foot monkey bars, landed on my face. So, possibly all the jarring in here. I don't know what ultimately led to the severe arthritis and degeneration in my neck. But the bottom line is excessive levels of mast cells. Of course, there's your histamine related to osteoarthritis. This is also the reason why we're seeing an increase in food sensitivities and so forth, because the amount of mast cells in the gut releasing histamine. So what do we do about all of this? Well, first and foremost, the best way to go about this is to, we can try to deactivate, these. You can, histamine 1, you can try to do antihistamines, right? Make yourself sleepy, because histamine is actually used in the wakeful, being awake. So, it's actually, oh my goodness, there's a histaminergic pathway in the hypothalamus that is utilized. It's actually necessary for the wakefulness. So this is the reason why when you take an antihistamine, you fall asleep. So the idea here really isn't, in my opinion, in the aromagenomics world, it's not about doing an antihistamine. We really want, because the body's designed to deactivate it. But here's the deal. I always get asked questions, well, why isn't it deactivating? Well, that tells me that your body's still being exposed to something, possibly molds and mildews, possibly fungus, possibly xenoestrogens, which is going to amp up the release of mast cells because it activates the immune system. So now you have high histamine levels. And then what happens when you have high histamine levels that don't clear? Then you start to develop higher levels of yeast. So it becomes this disproportionate amount of chemicals being produced that are all for the sake of protecting the organism when stability is required. Now, the other thing I was going to say about digestion, like I mentioned, the macronutrients aren't getting broken down. So that is going to add to the release of mast cells, the activation of the immune system, because you've got larger particles being circulating throughout the body. Now, the interesting thing that I discovered about the histamine 1 receptor, it is actually used to activate what's called a phospholipase C pathway, which pairs with inositol and creates this phosphatidylinositol, which is then used to produce in the serine kinase process that's considered like a CPU, because that little process that trickles down from the ATM gene is a CPU, meaning it actually signals the invasion of something microscopic, maybe a chemical, maybe a bacteria, but it actually is a signal. When I say CPU, I'm talking like with a computer. It's actually just monitoring what's going on in the body. The serine threonine kinase is what I mean. So let me back up. Histamine 1 receptor activates the lipase C pathway because it pairs it with inositol, creating a phosphatidylinositol, and that has different roles in the body. But one of the big roles is with the serine threonine kinase process, which is the CPU unit in nature that monitors all potential environmental hazards. And that particular serine threonine kinase is linked to BRCA1 mutations. These aren't really mutations in my world, in the aromagenomics world. These are just adaptations. So there's a BRCA1 adaptation, potentially a BRCA2 adaptation. You might be wondering what I'm talking about. Those are genes that have been involved with or have been detected, mutate. We're going to use science words, mutations that have been linked to breast cancer. However, the ATM gene, which is responsible for, again, regulating all these different processes for for tissue development, for tumor suppression, that's what that system is for. It's to monitor what's going on in the body and develop a defense system or a protection, like suppress the tumor, build the tumor. If we have a cyst for that matter, right? If you have a foreign body, even a bone chip, and the body is going to begin to release chemicals that are going to form a cyst. Even my father was found with a calcification in his brain, and it was I think it was a blood clot actually that calcified. So the body set out to protect him from that thing rupturing, and it calcified this blood clot. This is the beauty of the body. And in fact, when it comes to histamine, calcium is it's heavily involved in the histamine activity. And what I've talked about in the past is we really need to stop taking calcium supplements because it does activate the immune system. Magnesium, on the other hand, deactivates it. Now, I'm a big proponent of getting all of our minerals and vitamins and so forth. I'm really sorry about the quality of this, but getting them in our food. But in this case, when we have such issues like high histamine, you need to be taking some form of magnesium. Now, I know I've had comments on other videos saying, well, you can't take this magnesium. I get it. We have to work with what your body can tolerate. Too much magnesium, sulfate, any of the different, many of them will give you diarrhea. Okay. So, an histamine 2 receptor is actually involved with vascular smooth muscle relaxation, and it will actually help with the bowel movements. So, really helping to regulate the histamine is an important component, but we want to come at it with supporting the digestive system, paying attention to what's actually necessary right now. So if you have a lot of histamine intolerance, then taking magnesium, using it, getting an oil. You know what you can even do? I will put the recipe here in the description box. You can make your own magnesium oil with magnesium sulfate. And I actually strongly recommend that. That's Epsom salt. The reason for that is because we need that form of sulfate, because the sulfation pathway, which is part of our liver enzyme process of detoxing the body, is involved in this. So supporting sulfation through something like that. So if you can't, I don't necessarily recommend, you want to take a Epsom salt bath, do it. But if you want to make your own magnesium oil, like I said, I'll put the recipe. It's real easy. You can make your own spray, add it to a little bit of a hydrosol or something, add it to a cream, and you can put it on your body. Or you can go out and invest in some magnesium gel, or you can invest in some actual magnesium oil, store-bought oil. But these are some ways that you can begin to support the body by calming that immune system down. And because, do you know what a calcium channel blocker is? It's going to be magnesium. Okay, a calcium channel is which is communicating with these histamine receptors. So taking magnesium is essential for blocking that calcium use until we can get the rest of the body stabilized and working with the hormonal system. Now, what do you do with the hormonal system? Well, I go back to saying magnesium, because magnesium has 800 uses in the body. It's used, and it's included in hormonal regulation. So go back to your magnesium, number one. You can also use benzoin. If you're going to use benzoin, you want to make sure that you really dilute it. Oh my God. Dilute it with a carrier of some sort, or make a salve with it, because it is an irritant to the skin because of the resin. The benzoic acid in it will make you red. So you want to make sure that you put it in a carrier. Other oils that you could potentially use to support acetylcholine, the regulation of acetylcholine and digestion would be palmarosa is another one. Just thinking here. Truthfully, another one would be copaiba. Now, here's the thing. You might want to listen to this. If you're taking any type of medication, please don't use copaiba until you've gotten some help. Because I realize I'm giving information on the internet and I'm really wanting to be helpful, but at the same time, some of this stuff actually needs a second set of eyes and ears. So in the case of Copaiba, there's certain medications that you can't take. Myrrh would be another one that you could use in this purpose, but you don't want to take it paired with medications. And okay, so I'm giving you oils that you may or may not be able to use. Please don't be upset. It's because they just don't work with the medications. Just because other places say that go ahead and use this oil, and I did videos on adverse reactions. Bear in mind, an adverse reaction does not necessarily look like an allergic reaction like rash or runny nose or anything like itchy eyes. That's not the only adverse reaction. It could be what's considered an adjunctive, or which means, or an additive effect, which means that it accentuates the activity of the medication, or it could conflict at the liver enzyme level, in which case you may actually have a complete opposite effect of what you were expecting. So that said, Copaiba actually helps to reduce the histamine, especially in the stomach. If you've got a lot of stomach pain, put your Copaiba on your tummy. That'll help with the release of that and help calm all of that down. It actually supports the endogenous, the endocannabinoid system, which is essential in this because arachidonic acid is produced at the CB1 receptor, just like anandamide, but it depends on what the body's got going on. If you're in a state of bliss and having a grand day, then you're going to be producing anandamide. If you've gone out for an exercise, because the endogenous opiate system actually activates and interacts with the endocannabinoid system. However, if you're significantly stressed, the arachidonic acid will now be produced, and now you're having a stress reaction. So Copaiba is a good one. Myrrh is a good one. Like I said, palmarosa and benzoin would be how I would start it. I don't want to make any other recommendations at this point. Possibly Roman chamomile would be the only other one I would say at this point, because we want to support the salvation pathway, and I don't want to give you too many oils, just because I don't know what else is going on with you. Because although we may be talking about osteoarthritis, or we may be talking about breast cancer, or for that matter, just histamine intolerance. Maybe you're at the stage of histamine intolerance and it's a painful life, chronic fatigue and so forth, brain fog, pain, and anything else that comes along with it. Just because there's no label doesn't mean that it's any less significant. That's what I'm getting at here. That's the point of aromagenomics. While we can look at the symptoms, and yes, I can help people with pain for osteo, and I can help people protect their skin when it comes to radiation, which we'll be talking about on all the vlogs and so forth. The idea of actually supporting the body from any further degeneration is where aromagenomics comes in. Am I going to restore the bone, the quality of my bone? No, I'm not. But I can stop the progression of it, and really getting a handle on the way I think and feel, paying attention to those emotions as opposed to stuffing them like I've done for so many years and so many other people do. Paying attention to those. Calming the immune system, really calming the immune system. Helping the body deactivate mast cells, and Copaiba will actually help with that as well. So that's where I'm going to end it. I think I've talked long enough. The lighting is getting really bad at this point, and so if you have any questions, please let me know. Please visit synergessence.com, sign up for my my newsletter, join my email list over there. Let me know if you'd like a consult with me. If you sign up to join the newsletter or join the email list, and if you sign up to do that, you actually get 15% off your first time you decide to work with me. I really want to help people. And again, as I've mentioned, I am as bad as everybody else. And I don't mean bad. And, I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a human. When stuff is going on and we have all this information available to us and we want to learn more, we keep looking for it. But what we're searching doesn't necessarily provide us with what's really going on in the system. And my goal is to be able to stop the degeneration and help people actually get to the point where they can stabilize their system. As I mentioned, stabilizing the hormonal system, working with the digestion, and stabilizing the immune system. Those are key to stopping the degeneration of anything. And really, and I gave you, get yourself the betaine. That link's in the box below. Check out the oils if you're not taking your medications. If you are taking medications, then there are things that we need to consider, to talk about. You're worth it. Because the whole point here is to stop the degeneration of what's going on mentally, emotionally, and physically, so that we don't have to pass this on to the future generations. Okay? And I can help you with the ancestral healing. I can help you with guidance with the oils. You don't have to buy the oils from me. I'm happy to guide you with that. Now, here's the deal, as I mentioned, and I'll say it here in case you haven't seen the other videos. We really need to be careful about the oils that we're choosing, paying attention to what's actually in them, not just basing our decisions off of what a website or a book says, but actually learning to, understanding how to work with these constituents. And just because you have an oil, the very same plant that grows maybe in Utah, and you got the same plant that grows in Madagascar, it's two different oils. I don't care if it's the same species of plant, it's two different oils because the environments are entirely different. That's an important thing to understand. So recognizing what's in your oils, that's what I can help you with, because this is important. You might be wondering, well, what you're living with. Yes, I am, but I haven't monitored, as I told you in the beginning, I haven't managed my my belief systems about myself. And now I get to live the work. So, but I'm confident in what I'm saying about the oils. I know what they can do. I've helped people, so many people across the country, and I know what they can do when we apply them based on the chemistry. All right. So sign up, please share, subscribe. Let me know how I can serve you. And until then, until my next video, which will be a vlog tomorrow, just know I love you, and I'm very appreciative of you being here with me. All right. I will chat with you soon. Bye.